Ms.
Minor-
Blossom, are you ready?
Get all the right Zoom people in the right places.
Ms. Blossom,
What he said, sir.
what did he say?
He's working on getting all the Zoom people in the right places right
Okay,
now.
very good. Might be
I
embarrassing.
can never be sure
Yes, sir.
if this phone is dead.
What kind of power control do you need for it?
Ms. Blossom, are you ready?
Another moment, sir.
This one? I got you.
How can I get that book, Chair Holly, when the vision is bigger than the budget? How can I get that book?
I can get it to you this week.
Mr. Chair,
Hmm.
you wrote a book?
13 of them.
Okay.
He's asking for just one particular
My
one.
folks say light flex.
See what you did there.
Let me know if you like ones.
Sure. What's the one name you was talking about just now?
The vision is bigger than the budget.
That sounds good.
It does, don't it? That's our life right there.
I know you wrote 13 now, Mr. Chair, but I go with what the young pastor said, when the vision bigger than the budget, I sow into that one.
Excuse me, Honorable Board, Court Reporter Mr. Handyside, can you confirm that you can hear and see appropriately? Court Reporter Handyside? Court Reporter Handyside, can you hear and see appropriately?
Yes, I can, thank you.
Thank you. Chaplain Mobley, can you hear and join us by accepting the promotion to panelists? Mr. Chairman, we're ready to go.
Thank you so much, Ms. Blossom, and certainly I thank for those who are listening in-house as well as in the on Zoom. I want to thank you for your patience. We had a press conference with the Water Board here about 35 minutes ago, and so we had to follow that, and so we're just running a little late, and we apologize. We certainly want you to know we appreciate your patience with us. At this time, Ms. White, you might get us started.
Yes, sir. Through the chair. Good afternoon, Honorable Board, DPD executives, and community. Thank you again for attending the Detroit Board of Police Commissioners meeting. Just a few reminders before the board begins its official business meeting. If you would like to participate in the public comments section of the meeting, please submit your comment card or your name to be recognized during that time, and you may do so in person with Ms. Teresa Blossom, who is the Community Relations Coordinator, and then also you have the option of submitting your interest via Zoom or using Smartsheet. So please feel free again to sign up for public comments, and also we will make sure to go back and capture those community members who signed up last week but did not have the opportunity due to technical difficulties. We'll make sure to include you in today's list as well. Also, the Honorable Board, with respect to the Office of the Chief Investigator. If you have any questions or would like to make a complaint or would like to lodge a concern or seek additional information regarding DPD and their policies, please feel free to contact the Office of the Chief Investigator, and that is the board's investigative unit. You may contact that office at 313-596-2499. And also, please feel free to contact the board's administrative office, and we would also be glad to assist you with any questions that you might have related to the Board of Police Commissioners or the DPD. And that phone number to the board's administrative office is 313-596-1830, and you also have the option of sending an email, contacting the commissioners, and reaching out to us via Facebook and other platforms that we have available for the community. With that, at this time, please silence your cell phones if you're there in person to prevent interrupting today's meeting. And again, thank you for attending the Detroit Board of Police Commissioners meeting. And now, Chairperson Holly.
Thank you so much, Ms. White. Good afternoon to each and every one of you. I'm Jim Holly, Chairperson for the Board of Police Commissioners. This meeting will come to order. The invocation will be given by Chaplain Commander Mobley. At this time, Chaplain Commander Mobley, you may begin your invocation.
First of all, we want to just say thank you for the Honorable Commission Board. We want to thank Chair Holly and all the board members. We want to thank you all for taking up the mantle to be a watcher standing upon the wall. Father, you said that we would come before you and enter in with thanksgiving. We just want to thank you today. You've given us a brand new day. You've given us a day that we could start over again. If we didn't get it right yesterday, we have another opportunity to just say thank you. We thank you for health today. We thank you for clothing us in the right mind to serve in the capacity which much is given, much is required. We thank you today. We thank you today for our families. We thank you for our city. We thank you for the leaders of the city. We thank you for people in instrumental positions, Father God, who make the sacrifice day in and day out to care about others, to have compassion, to have humility, and to have great patience. We just want to thank you. We thank you, Father, right now. We pray, Lord God, that wisdom govern this meeting. We pray right now that unity be the focus point. We ask, oh God, in the name of Jesus, favor us for the decisions that have to be made that would affect so many lives. And so, Father, we thank you once again. We bind the forces of the enemy that would try to bring confusion and strife and division. And we, Father, speak your peace, your grace and mercy. Now, have your way in this meeting. Have your way with each individual. Bless them as they stand up front. Bless their families as they support them. But most of all, Father, bless them for the job that they're doing. You said only what we do for Christ shall last. So, Father God, let this last. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I thank you so much, Chaplain Mobley. A wonderful prayer. Thank you so much, and we receive it within our hearts. Thank you for attending today's meeting. Before beginning our meeting today, just a brief note about last week's Supreme Court decision overturning Roe versus Wade and two other main key court decisions. The court ruled against restrictions for carrying concealed weapons in public and against civil lawsuits related to police officers who failed to administrate the Miranda warnings. These decisions are monumental shift from the establishment rights and presidents. We also recently observed where President Biden signed into law gun reform that would expand background checks for minors interested in purchasing guns, removing guns from domestic violent offenders, and create other protections of reducing and deterring gun crimes. While this is a step in the right direction, we still have a lot of work to do. Last night, the news reported indicated Detroit police turned away a man with a AR-15 at Hart Plaza, and the people gathered around the fireworks. The AR-15 is a semi-automatic weapon like one used in the school shooting in Texas and other mass shootings at schools, at least at one church. I know the chief, and of course, his person that's standing in, Deputy Chief Haynes, either one will be there to say more about the fireworks and other events in his report. However, I have to say this is what is so troubling about the Supreme Court decision. No one can see what your intentions are when you have a weapon that like that in public, and you're not a police officer. That weapon creates fear and terror. It's a weapon that usually used for people with bad intentions who hurt a lot of people, even quickly, including police officers. Nothing happened last night, but this is a very pivotal point in Detroit and America for us all to act. The power of voting is one of the most important public service areas that we can engage in. We need to understand the power of our voice and our vote. The board would like to encourage each and every one of you to stay engaged. We actually ask that to encourage you to be active and informed about the democratic process, and the quality of life affects all communities, especially our community. While some of these issues may not affect you directly, they will likely affect you indirectly. We must vote. We must do what we can to protect and preserve our democracy, and that means voting in every election, not only the general election, but also the primary. Our lives and our children depends upon your vote and our vote. Once again, I thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. This meeting is special in the sense that we're not meeting on Thursday, we're meeting on Tuesday, substituting the meeting that will be on Thursday. At this time, I ask that the Vice Chairperson Ferguson will give us a short version of the commission statement.
Through the chair. The Board of Police Commissioners has supervisory control and oversight of the police department as set forth in the charter. The Board of Police Commissioners is composed of 11 members, 7 of whom shall be elected from each non-at-large district. 4 members of the board shall be appointed by the mayor, subject to the approval of the city council. Through the chair, read the mission statement.
All right, just short enough. At this time, I'd like to have the roll call. Mr. Watson, are you holding that with us for us? Or is Ms. White?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Through the chair, Mr. Vice Chair Brian Ferguson,
Here.
Commissioner Linda Bernard,
Attorney Linda Bernard, District 2, present.
Commissioner Cedric Banks,
Present.
Commissioner Willie E. Bill submitted an excused absence notification. Commissioner Willie E. Burton,
Present on the behalf of the majority Detroit.
Commissioner Lisa Carter submitted an excused absence notification. Commissioner Ricardo Moore,
Present, District 7.
Commissioner Jesus Hernandez,
Present.
Commissioner Annie Holt,
Good afternoon. Present, Annie Holt at large.
Commissioner Quantes Presley.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you do have a quorum.
And I thank you so much, and I thank all commissioners for taking time out. I know this is basically a day that you set aside that we might be able to get this meeting in according to the charter. And for that, I'm very grateful and very thankful for your time this afternoon. Based on the advisement from the law department, it is very important that we basically have a plan here regarding the current vacancies and the posting positions of the secretary to the board and chief investigator. Therefore, I want you to know there's no plan or plan for our personnel related matters to discuss in closed session. However, I'll ask for unanimous consent to rescind the motion to go into more closed sessions and to discuss the plan. I'm also recirculating the current job specifications for both positions for review and consideration. Our staff will work with city HR to post the positions and bring back and we pre-screen candidates based on their previously approved board hiring process. So with that in mind, I just want to make sure that allow me to do this correctly, expeditiously, and by the rules based on the charter. And we'll get through this with your help. At this time, I'd like to be able to have a motion that basically, I'd like to have a motion based upon the consent to.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, sir. If you just, you were just, through the chair, you were just simply notifying the full board of your intentions regarding why the closed session item was not on the agenda. So at this time, you just need a motion to approve the agenda in its form, in its current form.
Okay. Therefore, I'm asking for a motion to basically, for the agenda that we have before us.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Been properly moved and second. Any discussion?
Discussion.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, at last week's meeting, a motion was placed on the floor, and the motion was also amended. That the motion was also amended to postpone, which meaning that we shall have a closed door session on the personnel matter at this meeting. And I, in all due respect, Mr. Chairman, I like it if we follow that process today, because postponing it was for the next meeting, and this is that meeting, and we prepared to move forward.
You've heard any other further objections? Hearing none, yes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, just to follow up briefly, your motion, I can agree with your motion in part. However, I do feel that it is appropriate that the board discuss its two most senior executive positions in a closed session.
Do you want that? I'm just saying to you again, in other words, you don't have to discuss it because we're not, all we're going to do is, it's basically.
Post a job.
Yes, that's all we're talking
No
about.
problem, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, and,
Yes, sir.
Going to post them when? That's all I want to know.
and I agree with the motion. I just wish that it would have appeared on the agenda first, because it seems like it was some type of act to keep it off the agenda. It should have still been put on the agenda. We could have removed it off the agenda, but I'm going to agree with the motion.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
final conclusion for this segment on this line item is the fact that a motion, my colleagues, a motion was made last week. And Commissioner Ricardo Moore out of District 7 amended that motion, which was a higher motion, and that was to postpone it for this week right here. The city of Detroit,
Let me ask you this.
Mr. Chair,
I'm gonna, you're going to talk to me. I just need to have an understanding, that's all. And I apologize to you if I don't have the understanding. Are we talking about the 3 or 4 offered, the hirees that we basically, that we promoted last week? Is that what we're talking about? Are we talking about the interim secretary, the secretary position, and the chief position?
Mr. Chairman.
I'm asking which one you're talking about, my friend.
I'm getting to that, Mr. Chairman. We supported our colleague, Ricardo Moore, Commissioner Moore out of District 7, when he made a higher ranking motion to postpone. And to postpone means to the very next meeting, which is this meeting here. It looks very deceiving where we don't even see it on the agenda today. And we're talking about the interim secretary position, the interim chief investigator position. We're talking about the charter says we shall hire, we shall hire, a secretary to this board, as well as a chief investigator.
Commissioner.
We're talking about over 2 years
Commissioner,
in the position, Mr. Chairman,
you let me handle this, I can do this.
where it's a disservice that this board don't want to operate in compliance by hiring a secretary or hiring a chief investigator.
Mr. Commissioner, what I'm saying.
This is not transparency, Mr.
But
Chairman.
if you just stop a minute, and I'll be as transparent as I possibly can. What we're talking about here, everything that we're doing now is recorded. It's on the agenda. This is recorded. And when we'll have a motion to do exactly what you're asking us to do. But right now, I just follow the agenda. And so when somebody basically says, we like to post this or post that, it will be noted and it will be recorded, and therefore it will be on the agenda based upon the fact is the motion.
Mr. Chairman, but no disrespect to you, but we know you didn't write this agenda. We know that you didn't prepare this agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, but-
We know that the interim secretary to the board prepared this.
But-
And therefore, the interim secretary to the board kept this off today's agenda.
It's not off today's agenda if you let me just run the agenda. Let me get through these 2 days, these 2 weeks. You'll be through with me, and I'll be through with you. I'm
To the chair.
I'm just saying to you, let me get through it, son. Just let me get through it. I'll get through it, and you'll be satisfied at the end. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. But just let me get through it, please, Mrs. Lady. I'm just saying to you at this time, I'm asking you any other things you want to talk about.
This
Otherwise,
goes against the charter, Mr. Chairman. This totally goes against the charter.
Call for the question.
all in favor say aye.
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 Oppose,
All right, thanks, so ordered.
because of this violates the charter.
Now we're voting on approval of the agenda.
If you don't mind, will you make the motion to that, please?
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
But what date?
Oh, for June 28, 2022.
Second.
If no discussion, if any discussions or corrections, here no corrections, then it will be approved as read. So we just basically went back
I'm
and
against this
forth.
agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you want to stay, you want to participate? Because I'm telling you, I'm going to get through this. If you just be patient with me. I'm old, just be patient with me. At this time, I'm asking at this time that we would have introduction, if you would, please, of the board, of the staff here, please.
Chair, do we need to approve the minutes?
I thought we did, because it based upon, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposes? Let's have it, thank you so much. I apologize for that. It just got me kind of discombobulated, but I'll get there. I need to know right now, Ms. White, are you going to introduce your staff this year? Ms. Boston, can you do that?
Certainly.
Oh, I'm sorry, you can't. Oh, cool.
Okay, can you give me the people who are with us today, your staff?
Yes, sir. Through the chair, Media Services is handling the board's audio and visual needs and recording the board's meeting today. And the court reporter is Mr. Don Handyside. And the following board staff members are in attendance: Ms. Teresa Blossom, Community Relations Coordinator; Board Parliamentarian Dr. Francis Jackson; Investigator Tiffany Stewart; Director Katrina Patillo; Director of Police Personnel; Assistant Corporation Counsel Christopher Michaels; Interim Chief Investigator Lawrence Akbar, attending via Zoom; Supervising Investigator Ainsley Cromwell via Zoom; Acting Supervising Investigator LaSonia Sloan; and Acting Supervising Investigator Rosalia Madrigal; and it should be Supervising Investigator Rosalia Madrigal. Our American Sign Language interpreters today are Ms. Yakata and Dr. Stephanie Beatty. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. White. Chief, I didn't see you come in. Thank you for being there.
Yes, sir.
You'd like to let us know who's with you today?
Good afternoon, Board. I have with me Deputy Chief Franklin Hayes. I have Sergeant Greg Matthews from my staff. And that appears to be it in person.
Okay, thank you so much, Chief. Ms. White, have anybody in the Zoom audience that to be called special guests?
At this time, sir, I do not have any notification at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to hearing the feedback from the chiefs regarding the Ford fireworks held last evening in the department's effort to keep everyone safe during that event. We also look forward to learning, more importantly, the vital citywide crime updates and critical incidents for our awareness as well as any other events or incidents that the chief would like to bring to our attention. Today we have a presentation from the City of Detroit Board of Ethics, who will provide more information regarding the city's ethics ordinance and the board's mandates in this regard. As a reminder, the staff is planning on an upcoming Aim to Detroit Crime-Free Summit. Flyers are in your package. The Board of Police Commissioners has been recent summits on homicides and non-fatal shootings and other gun violence. The goal is very clear. We need to work together to make sure our city is safe as possible for everyone. We need to deliberate steps and actions. We need to take aim to making sure that our community is very safe and crime-free. So I'm asking you to save that date, Thursday, September the 8th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. And we ask that you please basically put that on your calendar. It will be at the Kennedy Recreation Center. And bringing a lot of top minds together for the summit to discuss gun violence, gun crime, prevention strategies constitutionally, and quickly remove guns from our streets and saving lives. During the month of July, the board will celebrate 48 years of being the most historic and prominent civilian oversight agency, leading the nation in this effort. Through the vision and leadership of the former Mayor Coleman A. Young, in 1973, the charter created the Board of Police Commissioners, a robust civilian oversight agency charged with overseeing the Detroit Police Department. We look forward to sharing it with you in our celebration as the leaders in civil oversight, and hope that you will be able to attend our community meetings, which will be held in districts where we all started. In 1967, riot or rebellion that led to the creation of this board. The board and the city has experienced several evolutions, all of which required us to transform the way we do civil oversight. And we look forward as a leader and prominent figures in the civil oversight. Voter registration tables will be set up to ensure that individuals can register to vote if they have not already done so. Please plan to attend and tell your neighbors about it as well. Next week, our new elected board officers, incoming chairperson Byron Ferguson and the incoming vice chairperson Annie Hope, will be sworn in and begin their one-year term. Again, we congratulate you and to send our best wishes. We look forward to the ceremony as well as your goals and your vision for the upcoming fiscal year towards enhancing and improving public safety, law enforcement, and civilian oversight. Lastly, the board will hold its annual training orientation during the month of July. More information is forthcoming from staff regarding the dates and the times for your consideration. Please stay tuned regarding these key items we have raised over the last 2 months and the other civilian oversight areas for your awareness. Thank you so much for that. At this time, Chief, if you could give us an update. I want to congratulate you on a job well done last night. I counted one by one about 80 to 100,000 people And I don't know what your count is, but I counted them one by one. And I just think that your people is special, your officers, and I understand that you put everybody out there to cook, the janitor, everybody that worked at the police department was out there last night. Is that right?
We had everybody we could have that did not compromise our service delivery at the precincts.
Right.
Everybody else was there.
Right.
All right, so good afternoon, Board. Once again, this is my report. I'll get to the fireworks in a moment, but I'll go through the numbers first. 5 members of the department recovering at home due to on-duty injuries, 1 sergeant from the 2nd Precinct, 1 police officer from TSS, 1 police officer from Gang Intel, 2 officers from the 7th Precinct. 12 officers quarantined with COVID, and last week we had 19. We have 10 members who have tested positive for this week, 17 last week. So even with the increased activity, we see a decline. But we know that COVID is going to be here, and it's going to be something we got to manage around. Our crime data, we are looking at a 15% reduction in homicides, 14% reduction in sexual assaults. We're looking at 15% in aggravated assaults, 5%. We're losing some ground, 5% on our robberies, but we're paying close attention to that. And carjackings continue to be of concern. We had a 32% increase. But we do have a overall 14% overall Part 1 violent crime reduction. We're going to continue to work through that, see what we can do to impact crime. Certainly in order to impact crime, it's a multi-layered approach. We need the community, and certainly some of the violent crime incidents that we have, like the one I'm going to be briefing you on today, very little impact the police can have when you have people making these types of decisions. So we'll get into that in a moment. Drifting and drag racing continues to be a problem in the department, or in the city rather. The department is going to remain focused on it. It's a very serious crime. Despite some thinking that it's entertainment, it is dangerous. These are not professional drivers. They're putting our community at risk. They're putting themselves at risk. I got a number of calls from people talking about being hit, or their vehicles ending up in their front yard, into their homes, and a number of other incidents that we've had throughout the city that go unreported in the media but are occurring. And we're going to do everything in our power to stop it, to stop this drifting and drag racing dangers in our community. It's something that is impacting the country. It's not just Detroit. I was in LA a couple weeks back, and they were having the same problems in their neighborhoods. Our stats for last week, no, that's not right. I'm not going to give you those stats. These stats are incorrect. They don't match what I read this morning. I'll report them next week and give you 2 weeks next week. I'm going to brief you out on a couple significant incidents that have happened. The sexual assault of a 79-year-old victim on June 20th of this year at 1018 5000 block of Lodwick. Officers responded to a police run regarding a sexual assault that had just occurred. The victim notified the officers that she heard a noise in her house and that her dog was barking. The victim went to investigate the source of the noise when she saw an unknown suspect standing in the home's hallway. After he assaulted the vehicle, he fled the scene of the crime. Our sex crimes unit obtained a video of the suspect. The images of the suspect were released to the media, and we are following tips. We still need the media's help, and we need the community's help, rather, with the suspect. We're going to push that out again this week. This is a suspect that was wearing a red jogging suit. We're pretty confident we know who he is. We just need to know where he's at. So we hope that no one is harboring him. If they are, they're going to be facing charges. So we'll be pushing that out again. Very tragic incident involving a 3-year-old victim. June 24th, 1258, 12,000 block of Monte Vista. Officers responded to the location for well-being check. And what that is to go out and see if the person is okay. Something's happened that caused someone to call the police. In this instance, this was a child that hadn't been seen. Child Protective Service reached out. Officers go out for well-being check. They were attempting to identify the whereabouts of the child. The suspect, who turned out to be the child's mother, made several attempts to deceive the officers. The officers continued investigating. Talked about this last week. Something instinctively told them something was off. Upon further investigation, the mother admitted that her son was inside a freezer in the basement of the home. 5 of the children in the home were removed and placed in a safe environment, and they're working through a safety plan. Unconscionable, really no words to even add to what happened in this situation, but just awful. A mother was charged with felony murder, first-degree child abuse, torture, and concealing the death of an individual. You just pray, because I don't know how you even add words to that. Double fatal vehicle accident this week, June 26, 12:30 a.m. in the area of John Kronk and Central. Officers from our organized crime unit, which is our unit that monitors our drag racing, go into an area, see a large group of people congregating for drag racing. What the officers do is they have a couple different strategies that they do, but in this instance, the officers attempted to initiate a traffic stop on a silver Lincoln by activating their lights and sirens. However, the vehicle drove off at a high rate of speed with several other vehicles. The officers turned off their lights, verified by in-car video, did not pursue. The driver of the vehicle continued to drive at an extremely high rate of speed, failed to stop at railroad tracks, resulting in a train colliding with the vehicle. The driver was a 29-year-old man, and the passenger was a 24-year-old, 24-year-old female from Northville. The driver was a 29-year-old man from Wixom in our city to participate in this ridiculous art of drifting and drag racing. Very tragic, very sad, something that should not have happened. They lost their lives for something so ridiculous, and were both hit by a train. The officers did attempt to extract the driver and the passenger from the vehicle, but were unsuccessful due to the extensive damage to the vehicle. Officers also tried to use their fire extinguisher to put a fire out in the vehicle's engine compartment. That was successful. It's being investigated now by our Fatal Squad team. Again, extremely tragic. Last tragic event happened today. This afternoon, 9200 block of Minnock. This is a very complicated story that I'll attempt to go through. This is a scene that I just left. So at some point earlier this afternoon, 2 males, 17 years old, attempt to break into, well, not attempt, they do break into a home in the 9200 block of Minnock. Inside of that home is 2 adults, 2 17-year-olds, and my understanding is a 2-year-old. Once inside the home, and this would be the home invasion, they break in through the side window. One of the males is armed with an AR, the other is armed with a pistol. At some point, they go into a room in the home. They encounter the male resident of the home, the adult male resident of the home, and at the same point, and again, this is subject to change, this is something I was just briefed on, that they encounter him, they see a female in her 30s that's identified as his wife, and they shoot her. She succumbed to her injuries. She was killed immediately. He then, at some point, engages the shooter and is able to get the gun from the shooter and shoots the shooter with his own gun. The shooter then escapes on foot, runs out of the home, down the street, takes a bicycle from someone, and proceeds to try to get away. At the very same point in time, the second suspect proceeds to run in the opposite direction. The victim, male victim, whose wife now is shot in the home, pursues the second suspect. He shot the first suspect who's on a bicycle escaping. Now he's pursuing the second suspect. He catches the second suspect. An altercation ensues. He strikes him with the weapon and is able to hold him until the police arrive. The police arrive very quickly, finding one suspect being held by the victim with a weapon in the victim's hand, striking the suspect. The suspect has another weapon on him that is on his hip. The second suspect, or the first suspect, so it's getting confusing even explaining it, that's escaping on the bike has now met up with someone else and jumped into a vehicle and is conveyed to a hospital. At the end of all of this, we have a deceased 30-year-old. We have a child that's been taken to protective custody. We have a perpetrator at the hospital in custody. We have a second perpetrator, the one that was being held by the victim, in custody and a weapon recovered. And we have a victim who is awaiting charges as well that we were investigating on a homicide, which we later found out. So all three of them are in custody. And our decedent is a 30-year-old or a female in her 30s whose family is getting ready to have the worst day of their lives. So those are the types of crimes that are virtually impossible to impact in policing. Those are decision-making situations. There's no way I can put extra patrols out for that. But a very tragic situation. The detectives are there unpacking all of this and doing a phenomenal job as usual. And they'll be bringing the appropriate charges to everyone. But I just wanted to give you that information. On Monday, yesterday, we hosted our 2022 fireworks. I just congratulated our team earlier. The officers did an amazing job, and I think everybody that you talked to, Commissioner Moore was out and about. Thank you for showing up for roll call. I think we saw the commitment. I know the commitment. You got a chance to see the commitment of the officers. They were everywhere. They were out in droves. They were professional. They looked professional. They were strong. I was very proud of all of them. They executed our plan to perfection. We had, we didn't get the numbers in years past, but we had pockets that were filled with a lot of people. We had a lot of teams. We closed out the night with 5 arrests. Now, I remember fireworks where we had 5 arrests an hour. But we closed out the entire night with 5 arrests. The most proud I am is of this one category, and that is juveniles detained, because we know how a detention of a juvenile can impact their future. Even though we had the curfew in effect, parental responsibility ordinance in effect, 0 juveniles detained last night. And that's fantastic. And the reason for that is twofold. One is the officer's level of engagement and giving the kids an opportunity to correct behavior and go home. Number 2 is ceasefire. Ceasefire was out there on the ground with us, working very hard, engaging these young folks. And kids, they're trying to show off for other kids. And, our officers practice great restraint. They know the game. And, go home, right? And many of them went home. 3 arrests were for guns. 2 arrests were for 2 intoxicated females. One of the females attempted to run an officer over with a car, and the other one, she has a few problems that she'll be dealing with the next few days. And then the one case, I don't know all the details, but I know she was intoxicated and disorderly. So again, 5 arrests, very successful night. Officers were just incredible. The city looked great. Many events going on, many parties going on. The traffic execution plan was phenomenal. This Deputy Chief, Franklin Hayes, and Assistant Chief Charles Fitzgerald, they really worked their tails off on this event. And, behind the scenes, hours and hours, talking to me every day on the weekends, in the evenings, just pulling all the little things that people don't know about together so that it's safe, walking the footprint, and even with the Evolve radar, I'm thinking of traffic, metal detectors. seamless. There was no disruption, flow. Some people chose not to go through them, no problem. Those people who had CPLs in the areas that were not weapon-free produced their CPLs and moved freely without problem. There was a couple open carry people that had no issue as long as they understood what open carry was and that you can't cover up your open carry weapon with your T-shirt. But it went well, and I could not be prouder of our team and our team's execution. So with that, I will take any questions.
Explain, try to give me what happened with the guy with the 45, the long gun, or what when you saw him, what happened? Then also you got a new security thing where people walk through and they don't have to. And a lot of times people felt like. Talk those two things, Cliff, if you could, please.
All right, very quickly, you're speaking of the open carry guy who had
right,
the AR. So, yes, we did encounter a gentleman who was an open carry advocate and also participating in it. Had an AR, which is an assault rifle, walking towards a very large crowd. And I get his constitutional right to open carry, but I also have an entire community to protect. And if anybody's, paying any attention to what's happening in this country, it would be absurd to simply let him walk towards a large crowd with a machine gun and not even say a good afternoon to you. So we said a good afternoon to him a few times, and we made sure that he recognized that we were in the area. We did not accost him. We did not harass him, but he has a right to open carry, and I have a right to watch him open carry, and that's exactly what we did. And he felt uncomfortable with us watching him open carry, and he decided to do something else with the rest of his day, and we supported that as well. The metal detectors, they were seamless. Hart Plaza, as you know, was leased out by the parade company. They decided to make it a weapons-free zone. We ran that through the law department to ensure that we met all of the responsibilities of that and didn't violate anyone's rights. We made sure that happened. It did happen. It was weapons free. It's been weapons free for many events, not just this one. And parade company was great. It worked well. No one was disrupted. Some people made a decision not to go in because they wanted to take their weapons. So they decided to watch the fireworks from another location. And again, that was fine. So families were there. Kids were there. I was happy to see so many families out there participating and enjoying it. You know that this is a huge tradition for the city. Many people in this room have childhood memories of going to the fireworks in Detroit. And so it was really nice to see the families return. And no problems this year.
Thank you so much, Chief.
Yep.
Commissioner Hernandez, you have a question for the Chief?
I do. I'll probably do a rapid fire through the chair. First of all, thank you for yesterday. I was, I wouldn't really say observing or patrolling, but I experienced the fireworks, thoroughly enjoyed that experience. It had an ambiance of family friendly, which was great. It was needed, especially after the last 2 years plus that we've had. And I actually witnessed a few officers who were engaging, I think, the best way possible with interesting crowds. And some may have been residents who were trying to get through traffic stops or whatever it may have been. A very big shout out to Captain Toski, who I actually ran into and handled one of those interactions very appropriately. So kudos to him. Rapid fire questions. You talked about the drag racing detail. ATVs continue to be an issue, mopeds, dirt bikes. Could we anticipate, hopefully relatively soon, additional results to curb that activity? I was downtown earlier, or late last week, and witnessed several laps from 50 plus ATVs in the area, and I know that's there's somewhat of a constant, but could you just speak a little bit to that, and then I have two other quick ones.
All right, I'll go quick too. So yes, we are trying to be much more strategic. We're going to use the helicopters to help us with those. What we don't want to do, Commissioner, is these things are dangerous and they're small, and the moment you light them up, turn your lights on, they take off. And now if they lose control and hit a bus or hurt themselves, then I'm here telling you, what we did or didn't do. So it's a real huge challenge for the officers, because I don't want someone, for what equates to, civil infraction, to lose their life because the kids are going to take off 100 miles an hour thinking that they can control that thing, and they really can't. But we are going to use the air support, and we're going to put together some ways of knowing where they stop, and when they stop, we're going to take our enforcement action.
Sounds good, thank you. And the last one, very quick one. Out of the 5 arrests that occurred, how many were actual Detroiters? Do you have that?
I don't have that with me, but I'll find out.
Thank you.
I'll report next week.
Commissioner Bertrand?
Take that for me.
I have no questions at this time, Mr. Chairman, but maybe later.
Commissioner Holt?
Thank you, Chair Howley. Thank you, Chief White. Excellent report. And again, my family was down last night. I they made me stay at home, but they too could support the compliments that you've made as it relates to the management of DPD and how they interacted with some young people. So again, thank you, DPD, and allowing us to enjoy last night as well.
Thank you.
Ferguson, Vice Chairperson?
None at this time.
Commissioner Bernard?
Just quickly, I noticed that you have a couple of training events coming up on mental health. If a commissioner wanted to attend, could we, no, one is for sworn and then one is for civilian and sworn. Is it possible to attend? It's like 8 hours or something. I think I'd be interested.
You're welcome to attend both.
Okay, thank you. The second thing, first of all, again, congratulations on a very successful fireworks evening, and thank you again for your tickets. But I wanted to ask you a question. I met a gentleman last night, actually from Chicago, a white man, and he was telling me that he has a concealed weapons permit, and that he always carries his gun. He was a mature guy, maybe 55 or something. Anyway, my question is, does that permit him to carry in Michigan?
I don't know if Chicago, it should, but I don't want.
Oh, it does? So if,
I don't want to go on record as saying definitively yes. I know there are some states that don't cross over, but I think Chicago is one that does.
Illinois does cross over. Okay. All right. That was my only question. Thank you.
Commissioner Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A great job in leadership, Chief. You showed frontline leadership, and you're not giving yourself enough credit because you were all over the place, and I saw you. You know, I was monitoring the Evolve, but you were everywhere, and that's great frontline leadership.
Thank you.
And it was an international event. You know, we sit on the international board, and I think that Detroiters sometimes take that for granted. That's very powerful in the country. And Detroit is the only city in the United States that's south of Canada. So I just really did appreciate the experience, the downtown experience that I had. And again, great job to you and your officers.
Thank you.
The question is that I have deals with 911. If a citizen hears a gunshot, for example, and they don't know where it's coming from, should they dial 911? If they do, what are they going to tell 911?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always want you to call 911 when you hear gunshot, you know, because that's something we should never take. You talk about taking things for granted. If a gun is being fired, likely someone's being hurt. You know, not to bring up other conversations, but this is why ShotSpotter is so important. I'm a full supporter of ShotSpotter, and I really want people to take the time to educate themselves on exactly what we're talking about. There's no video, there is no recording taking place of your conversations, there's no facial recognition. This is an identification of a shot being fired in this community. Since 2021, I think when it went go live, there's been 4,000 over 4,000 shots fired calls. 67 of those have resulted in arrests. So a small number, but it's the arrest of somebody that's hurting somebody. And the other thing about, you know, shots in our community, you know, because it's so frequent, people become desensitized to it. It becomes the new auto alarm. It really does. Remember when auto alarms came out in the 80s and 90s? Every time you heard one, you went to a window. After a while, I wish they'd shut it off. And that's what's happening with gunshots. And I can't tell you how many calls we go on where the people who are shooting guns don't care that they're outside shooting guns. Like the little girl who was spending the night at her grandmother's house 2 weeks ago, who was shot because the people behind her decided to go in their backyards with no regard for the community, without any regard for anybody hearing them shooting and calling 911, and shoot in the air. The problem is one of the young people who were shooting in the air lost control and shot directly in the backyard or in the other direction, and the bullet went through her home and killed her. And she was simply TikToking or wherever you call it, and dancing and playing with a bunch of other kids, and she's now dead and will never be here again. And if there was a behavioral change process where people say, you can't really shoot because the police are going to come, then that little 9-year-old girl could be the next Board of Police chairperson, next police chief, next city council person, next Annie Holt, seriously, next Linda Bernard, but she will never get that opportunity because she decided to spend the night at her grandmother's house. That's awful. And instead of us arguing over things that are not true, we should be supporting something that's going to save these children. You got to be tired of me sitting here giving you a report on dead babies. And if there's a violation of it, hold me or whatever chief you got accountable. But to sit here and be feared into not saving lives is wrong. And we got to do better for these children.
Commissioner Presley?
Thank you, through the chair. Chief White, my question is relative to the drag racing. You talked about the 2 fatalities that existed, and I think that you noted that both of them were non-Detroiters. I know it may be hard to generalize this, but are we finding that there are more who are in the drag racing who are non-Detroiters than Detroiters that we are having engagement with?
Yeah, well, let me preface my comments with saying, I was not trying to characterize the residents as lessening the impact of what happened. I mean, I'm sure you know that, but it is factual that we have a large number of people coming into our city, participating in it, and witnessing it, thinking they can come here and do what they want to do and go home and laugh about it and put it on social media. So yes, we do see a large number of people coming to this town doing that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Banks?
Yes, yeah, through the chair, Chief White, that was a great victory on last night for yourself and the Detroit Police Department, based on how the fireworks has been over the years, disaster over the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So that's great improvement for DPD, constantly improving. Just wanted to give you a thumbs up.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief. I know you have to go, and we appreciate you so much and appreciate your reporting to us this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. If I may address Commissioner's earlier question about residents of the arrests.
Yeah.
The 2 misdemeanor assaults were Detroiters. The gun arrests were 1 Detroit, 1 Southfield, 1 Melvindale.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
No, we thank you.
Great job.
At this time, I'd like to have the presentation from the Ethics, Board of Ethics, if you're here today.
Yes, we are, Chairperson. Thank you.
Okay, very good. You may identify yourself and basically identify your mission and then begin your report.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
this is on
Chair.
Zoom? Is this on Zoom today, Mr. Chairman? Okay.
Yes. Through the chair, Mr. Chair, if I may, this is again Melanie White, Interim Board Secretary. If I may just give a brief introduction before the presenter begins the Board of Ethics presentation. Through the chair, this presentation is based on the board's request to receive information from the Board of Ethics, and also the board, I should say that the board has an upcoming training with the Board of Ethics as well. The Board of Ethics establishes disclosure requirements and standards of conduct applicable to all public servants. So again, a training session is coming forward in that regard, and the Honorable Board received various support material in preparation for today's presentation, the PowerPoint presentation, and you also have some additional support material. And if I may just take just a quick moment to identify some of the other representatives that I did not get a chance to identify while the presenter prepares to give the presentation. Former Police Commissioner William Davis is online via Zoom. Board Parliamentarian Dr. Francis Jackson is available on Zoom. Also, Ms. Marie Overall of State Representative Tyrone Carter's office is present. And I mentioned earlier Director Katrina Patillo, Director of Police Personnel. I just wanted to note that for the record. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Ms. White. Thank you always for your help. Appreciate it.
Ms. White, if you could promote Dawn Widman to a panelist as well. She's with me from our office to help answer questions if there are any.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael O'Connell. I'm the training specialist for the city's Board of Ethics. My role is to facilitate the training of all public servants for the city of Detroit. I've been in this role since September, and I started with the city a little over 4 years ago in the city clerk's office. So the Board of Ethics is a City of Detroit oversight agency. And if we could go to the, next slide, thank you. It's a city oversight agency tasked with administering the ethics ordinance for all public servants, contractors, and vendors in the city of Detroit. The board renders opinions on requests for advisory opinions for public servants about their own behavior. We investigate complaints of ethics ordinance violations that can come from either the public or public servants. And we conduct our annual training on the ethics ordinance and intake mandated disclosure requirements through the ordinance as well. If we can go to the next slide. Our creation was required by the 1997 charter. It governs the conduct of all public servants, requires training, and establishes those disclosure requirements that we'll talk about in just a second. So some people ask who a public servant really is, and we talk about elected officials, all appointed officials, board members, commissioners, all employees of the city of Detroit, and then any contractor or vendor doing business on behalf of the city. So in every contract is written the requirement for adherence to the ethics ordinance as well. For disclosure requirements, the ordinance does require the disclosure of any direct or indirect financial interest in city contracts or matters pending before city council or any other department or agency. Any direct or indirect interest in real and personal property that's subject to any city decision regarding any kind of zoning, sale, lease, improvement, tax abatement, or anything like that. And then the identity of any immediate family member employed by the city or who is making application for city employment. So it's always better to just be as transparent as possible in those processes, and we're here to help facilitate that. The mayor, members of city council, city clerk, and candidates for election have to make campaign contributions and expenditures public in accordance with state law. And then any appointees must also disclose those familial relationships with anyone like the mayor, city council, or city clerk. And if you're ever unsure if you need to file, just reach out. We're always happy to answer any questions you might have about that process as well. So our standards of conduct are broken down into roughly 12 different things, but there's a lot of nuance to the ordinance. So it's important to always ask questions if you have them. So we talk about the willful neglect of duty or engaging in any official duties for private gain, the use of confidential information for private gain, improper disclosure of confidential information. I'm sure all of you know, but it's always good to get a reminder that confidential information isn't always stamped confidential. So just some things to remember about that. And the use of city resources for commercial gain or incompatible employment or rendering of services. So sometimes we have a couple issues with these, and we do offer the request for advisory opinion process. You're able to file a request that says, I want to do this thing. Does it conflict under the ethics ordinance in any way with my current duties as a commissioner or an employee or anything like that? Gifts and gratuities are the thing that we see the most. A lot of times it's just a vendor wanting to be more material with their expression of thanks to city employees or public servants. So the city does have a $0 limit on the value of gifts and gratuities. So anyone seeking to do business with the city or already doing business with the city is not able to give you a gift, and you're also not able to accept any gifts of any value. That includes, going to the fireworks and walking around, and there's a vendor that wants to give you a free bottle of water because they think you're doing a great job as a police commissioner. That's not okay. The bottle of water does have some value, so that's still against the ordinance. If water's free to everybody, you're totally welcome to take one. as long as it's available to the public at the same value as it's offered to you, it's not a problem. There are some exceptions to this provision in the ordinance. We can go to that. Thank you. So if you're given an award by an individual, governmental body, or non-governmental entity in recognition of your public service, that's totally fine. Complimentary copies of trade publications, books, reports, pamphlets, any kind of promotional materials that are free to the public, you're more than welcome to take. Gifts received by immediate family members, relatives, anything like that, that's not given for them to act as a third-party intermediary for you. It's not, I give this to so-and-so to give to the police commissioner. Then it's totally fine to take those things. Admission or registration fees, travel expenses, entertainment, meals, or refreshments that are furnished to the public servant by the sponsor of an event, appearance or ceremony, which is related to official city business in connection with such an event, or in connection with a teaching or speaking engagement, or the provision of assistance to an organization or another governmental entity. As long as the city doesn't compensate you for those things, then you're able to accept those in some cases. But in all of these cases, it's best to reach out to the Board of Ethics and make sure that you're covered. So as we said before, the board receives and resolves requests for advisory opinions for public servants about their own behavior. We do receive and resolve complaints from the public and public servants about a public servant's behavior. We provide an annual report for submission to the mayor and city council, make recommendations for improvements to the ordinance and the charter, and again, administer annual mandatory training for all public servants. So the next steps for everyone here is your mandatory ethics training is coming up here beginning July 1st. We do give you a calendar quarter to complete that. So you are going to go to detroitethics.org. We are on a separate website to maintain our confidentiality in a private server so that DoIT doesn't have access to our confidential files. So when you do access that training for the first time, you'll go into our website, go to online services, select ethics training. There'll be a button there that says start training. It'll take you to our Easy Generator software where you'll have to create an account if you've never taken our online training before. And then you'll be able to sign in with that account in future. And you'll be able to complete that training online. It is self-paced. And it does retain your place if you do leave it and want to come back later. So you don't have to finish it all in one sitting, but it takes roughly 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how fast you get through it. But it has all the information you need in there. And then should you feel that the Board of Police Commissioners needs a little bit additional training or needs some clarification, we're always here to set up a question and answer session or clarifying in-person training should you need it. So we would request that you do complete this training by August 30th of this year. If it goes a little bit later than that, you do have until September to complete that training. So we do want to try and get it done early in case there are questions. Then we can get back to you and make sure that those are answered for you. And this is all of our contact information. This PowerPoint has been sent to the offices for the Board of Police Commissioners. So all of our contact information is there, including my personal contact information. So if you need to contact me with questions about the training or you're having trouble logging in, or you'd like to set up an in-person question and answer session or an in-person training, we're more than welcome to take the time out to do that and accommodate your guys' schedule. At this time, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those for you.
If you have any questions, just raise your hand. For those who have questions, Commissioner Bernard.
Just quickly, the training, we can take the training online individually at on our own pace, or what are you suggesting?
Yes, ma'am. It is an individual online training.
Midnight, if
so-
I wanted to do it, I could just do it at midnight.
Yes, ma'am. It's accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on any electronic device.
Okay,
So tablet, phone, computer, anything.
it's 1 hour?
It should be roughly 30 to 45 minutes,
Oh,
depending
okay.
on how fast you move through the modules.
Thank you.
No problem.
Chairman.
Mr. O'Connor, if I, as a commissioner, and wanted to say when my time is up, can I go and work for the police department?
Well, we would tell you to fill out a request for advisory opinion while you're still on the Board of Police Commissioners, and the board makes all of those decisions. So I'm unable to tell you a definitive yes or no because the board makes all those calls. That's a little bit above my pay grade, but
Okay.
we would encourage you to file a request for advisory opinion, but there is a provision there for a 1-year post-employment prohibition, but that's usually for public servants leaving the city for private businesses, which would be doing business on for the city or with the city and asking that public servant to then use their previously gained knowledge from their position to benefit the company in that position.
Gotcha.
So there are provisions in there to prevent that, but it doesn't mean that every situation will be a no.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Moore.
Thank you, sir. Who's on the Board of Ethics?
Well, we have our chairperson, Kristen Lusson, our vice chairperson, David Jones, and then our members are Michael Rafferty, Mario Morrow, Byron Osborne, and Robert Watt.
And is it a requirement to live in the city of Detroit, or does that matter?
It is a requirement to live in the city of Detroit.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. O'Connor, for that report. As always, we thank you for showing up and really reminding us of the training, as well as reminding us of our duties as in terms of ethics. So I want to thank you so much, and the work that you do, I want to thank you for that as well.
Thank you very much for having us today. And I did want to give a quick shout out for Chief White and the Detroit Police Department. We have had just an overwhelming amount of police officers taking the training after our meeting with Chief White, and their facilitation of that has just been exceptional. So we can't thank them enough, and we're looking forward to everyone finishing training here too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. White, your report, please.
Yes, sir. Through the chair, honorable board, the incoming correspondence is noted on the agenda today, and it includes, but is not limited to, the regular reports that arrive into the board's office, consisting of the facial recognition technology report, ShotSpotter, and Project Greenlight. The honorable board also received correspondence from Chief James White regarding the DPD's police personnel and recruitment activities and strategies relating to the board's previous inquiries. And the board also received various staff reports for your consideration. And just by way of brief information, today I attended the Michigan NAACP and the Divine Nine Legislative Advocacy Day at the State Capitol in Lansing, Michigan. And I attended various workshops and received and heard presentations on various legislative topics, including but not limited to civil rights legislation updates, police, criminal justice, and juvenile justice issues, education, public policy updates, voting rights, election updates, and much, much more. And so I will send the PowerPoint presentation from today's event to share more information with the board in regards to some of the legislative efforts that the board is currently engaged in with regards to pending criminal justice and police reform bills within the Michigan legislature. And we also were able to hear from the Michigan Legislative Black Caucus on some of their initiatives and efforts with regards to police and criminal justice reforms and pending bills for your consideration, and also just seeking to gain more information and build a relationship with our Michigan legislatures in terms of ensuring that we advocate for those bills and those laws that the Board of Police Commissioners is interested in as it relates to public safety and criminal justice reform. And we also saw Honorable State Representative Tyrone Carter, and again, along with many other elected officials. And so I just wanted to share that brief report, but again, a formal report is forthcoming, as well as the presentations from today. And just lastly, the Honorable Board received the notification regarding the officer-involved shooting incident, the recent officer-involved shooting incident, and that debriefing has been sent to your email. So please check your emails for further details on the date and time for that debriefing. And that concludes my report. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. White. As always, Board, give me just a minute and a half, and I'll have you to just follow me, if you would, please. In the beginning of the program, the beginning of the meeting, I asked you to withdraw regarding the vacancies of the secretary and the chief of investigator, and we've done that. So what I'm asking for you now is to basically for a motion. The motion is that I'm asking that we will post all vacancies. For example, the lawyer. I'm asking that you look at it as a contract for the lawyer rather than a full job, a contract with the lawyer. I'm asking that also be posted with the chief of investigators and the secretary of the board, all be posted with HR. We have the investigations already in the loop, and so we have now 7 positions we got to fill. I'm asking you to understand that we need to fill all of them, and we need to fill them in a sense of importance and priority, like the investigators. We need those investigators filled so we can get these complaints down, and then we need to have the lawyer, and then we need to have the chief of OIC, and then we need to have the secretary. So I want to ask that you allow, the chair would like to have a motion that we notify HR that all these things will be posted according to the Constitution, according to the charter.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to immediately post and advertise the position of Chief Investigator for the Board of Police Commissioners.
Second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Do I need a roll call, Mrs. White?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you do a roll call for me?
Yes, sir. Mr. Vice Chair Brian Ferguson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Burton,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Holt,
Yes.
Commissioner Presley,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yes, sir. There were 9 yes votes. The motion passed.
Mr. Chairman, I'll also make a motion to immediately post and advertise the position of Board Secretary for the Board of Police Commissioners.
Second.
Any discussion? Here, no discussion. Can I have a roll call, please? Ms. White?
No discussion.
Mr. Vice Chair,
No discussion.
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Burton,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Holt,
Yes.
Commissioner Presley,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
There were 9 yes votes. The motion passed.
I need a motion for the lawyer contract with her.
Through the chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we immediately post a position for the position of board's board's attorney.
Support.
Mr. Chairman?
Is there,
Second.
I'm asking for discussion. Who wants to discuss?
I want to discuss.
All right, then, you have.
Mr. Chairman, I strenuously object to this position being a contracted position. This is not like a parliamentarian, a person who comes to a meeting and simply gives opinions on what's proper and what's improper. The board has always had a full-time attorney. There are two things that any good organization and business has. It's a strong finance person and it's a good lawyer.
Okay.
You will spend far, far more money if you have a good lawyer here on an hourly basis who's going to be providing you advice at $300 to $500 an hour. It makes no sense. The position is budgeted. We need the position. It's a valuable management person and tool that in many instances would take up and take the place of your board secretary if they weren't around or whatever. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's a person with a postgraduate degree. We don't have any people, with the exception, generally, we don't have any people who work with us with postgraduate degrees. We need this as a full-time position.
Right.
Your lawyer is your advisor.
Mrs.
That's my point.
And you have a right for your point. My concern is this, and like I said, I don't have no problem with whatever you guys want to do. But the lawyer that we have, he has to follow the charter. After he follows the charter, he's basically got to also check in with the law department. The lawyer, whatever lawyer you have, has got to be in tune with the law department for the city of Detroit. I'm just saying to you again, if that's what you want to spend money on, just someone to sit around here and just a body to sit around here, and basically to do that, that's fine. I just feel like that a contract lawyer, a good lawyer, does not need to be full-time. Is there anybody else, you have something, you normally always have something to say?
Mr. Chairman,
On the lawyer.
Mr. Chairman,
Already had your sentence, your lawyer.
What you said isn't true, Mr. Chairman.
I'm just saying it is true, but I'm just saying to
Yes,
you.
the Corporation Counsel represents the city of Detroit and represents us on litigation matters where we're being sued by police officers or someone like that. Our lawyer represents us on policy matters, on internal matters, on
Do you think,
financial.
Miss Lady, Commissioner, with all respect, attorney.
Not true.
Attorney.
Every department,
Mr.
every
Michael,
elected department has its own
Michael, I
counsel.
need your
Why should the commission be any different
Because I'm just saying to you that.
than any
the
other
lawyer
elected body?
It's fine.
City council has their own lawyer. They have the corporation council too, but they have a lawyer and a whole legal
Obviously,
team.
Commissioner Bernard, obviously I don't have the experience or the knowledge in legal terms to handle this with you. I'm just saying to you again, if that's what you want to do and others want to be that way, I'm just here to tell you my point of view and yours. I'm going to try to
But,
get.
Mr. Chairman, that's not, we are an elected body. We are not an appendage to any other office.
Okay.
Every elected body in the city has its own counsel.
The motion here is to the lawyer. You just say contract or nothing, did you?
No, sir, I did
You just
not.
said the lawyer.
Oh, I want a full-time lawyer. We need one, like every other elected body.
I tell you right quick, and I can leave tonight, but you all, I can't, your lawyering, you do the lawyering. You the lawyer. So I'm just saying to you again, if I had another lawyer, I would be like Jesus, hanging on the cross.
Very funny,
on.
very funny.
Playing with you. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, my goodness.
you know,
Commissioner, we're talking about the lawyer. Talking about the lawyer.
I know exactly what we're talking about, Mr. Chairman, and your statements in your pockets is way out of line when you compare Jesus Christ and so forth, and you sit here, you mock commissioners that making statements, that speaking up on behalf of their districts. But, Mr. Chairman, to get back to business, the board business, the Board of Police Commissioners have been around for 48 years and has always had a full-time attorney to the board. We cannot be an appendage to the mayor or the chief. We are an independent body. We must follow the charter. This board has not been in compliance for some time, and it looks like there are commissioners that are part of colluding just to read the language here talking about a contractual attorney when we are budgeted for a full-time attorney. We have always had a full-time attorney to the Board of Police Commission.
All right, thank you.
We have never had a part-time attorney.
Commissioner.
Like Commissioner Bernard has said, that represents the mighty 2nd District, and she speaks for her constituents as well. Like she said, that the board has always had a full-time attorney. We deserve, to be able to be in compliance when we need immediate questions answered. We cannot turn to Corporation Counsel when Corporation Counsel represents all city departments.
Mr. Chairman, the chief has a legal staff of $1.4 million. He has a full-time lawyer and a full-time legal staff. You don't want us to have one lawyer?
Commissioner, why are you talking?
I'm just causing because it doesn't make any sense.
You can't buy it. Not like me.
Order.
Gonna-
Point of order.
But you got to respect my position. And when I tell you, you have to go through the chairman. You got to remember that, son.
Yes, sir.
You got to go through the chairman. And what I'm saying to you is, the motion is a lawyer.
It was
It's-
read in here as
It's
contractual.
just the motion, though, Commissioner.
So-
Read the motion.
Yeah, I read the
You wrote the motion, Mr.
I've read.
Can you make the motion again?
Yes, I move to support the position that the board hires an attorney for the board.
That's what she said. Now, I know I had a stroke, but it wasn't yesterday.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm just saying I'm telling you, I'm getting what you want, my man. Let's go through it. I want to get it.
Mr. Chairman, no disrespect, I was interrupted when I was making my statement.
Because
so
I'm telling you, your statement is over. You're just saying
Mr. Chairman,
everything over and over and over.
Mr. Chairman, it looks like colluding is going on this board.
And what I don't...
And there was an email that was sent out asking for a contractual attorney. It was also stated
What
here
are we
today.
doing here, though? What are we doing
And
here?
we cannot have a contractual attorney when we have a.
There's nothing on the board about a contract.
It was in an email. It was an email that's sent to all 11 commissioners.
Now. We're talking about now. I'm talking about now. The only reason I'm getting high and loud because it's my last daggum day. And I'm just telling you that I'm going with this meeting.
This board is budgeted. This board is budgeted for a full-time attorney. Once again, on the record, we have never had a part-time attorney. We must follow the charter. This board has nearly $3.5 million budget. Why should we have a part-time attorney now when that's something that we never had before?
Part that you don't understand. What part you don't understand? We're not talking about a part-time attorney. We're talking about an attorney.
Mr. Chairman, it was put in the email to all 11.
To the question?
I second.
Move to the question.
Mr. Chairman, I second the vice chair, upcoming vice chair's motion that we hire an attorney
And discussion's been taking place.
pursuant to the budget.
And so I'm going to have a roll call.
Thank you.
Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir, Mr.
I like
Mr. Vice
to amend that
There
motion.
is no, the chair will not accept anything other than the question has been called for.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, you can amend a motion.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard,
Yes, a full-time attorney.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Burton,
I support a full-time attorney, yes, for a full-time attorney.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Holtz,
Yes.
Commissioner Presley,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
There were 9 yes votes. The motion passed.
Mr. Chairman,
The new business. Yes, Mr.
before we go on, I just want the Personnel and Training Committee to follow up aggressively on these and ask for a weekly report on how the status is, because this has been going on so long. I think that committee needs to give us a weekly report on everything we just voted on.
But I disagree with you, but we can do that. But the point is that we just started this.
Sure, all right.
We have not, there's nothing to report because we had another position, and another situation where we had interims.
Right.
So that's no more. So we don't have to, that's not been going on.
I just don't want it to be discussed like we did today, take these votes, and then all of a sudden, we
got
just
that now.
hear, right.
You got my support on
Right,
that.
and that's what I mean. So therefore, if we have like the Personnel and Training Committee can just brief us
It's fine.
on what's
No,
taking place.
And make sure they do, okay?
But that's your vice,
Well,
your chair-elect.
I know, but he's much smarter than I am. New business, any new business? Here, no business, announcements.
Mr. Chairman,
Business?
he have his hand up for new business.
You can go ahead.
You call for new, you had your hand up. I'm going to yield
But
for you.
somebody got to talk to me.
Well, I was just saying he can go ahead if he wanted to.
I'm just saying, you the bishop, you talk to me.
Through the chair.
I know. I know.
Through the chair, I know today your last day. I know today your last day, but thank you for helping me make this transition easier in my first 6 months here. You truly been a father figure to this board. I appreciate you.
Thank you, my brother.
And I love you, man.
And love you back. Thank you, Commissioner Bernard.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to amend the motion that the board has voted on because it's very important that we don't send out miscommunications, and it's very important that this board shouldn't participate in any colluding that can come back and in some form of litigation against this board. So I want to make a motion for the board to hire a full-time attorney like we have always been.
You just did it.
We just did that.
We just did it.
We just
Okay,
did
but in the email it says contractual.
Oh, that email.
that. Going by what's written down and what motion.
Through the chair, the motion supersedes any email.
Okay. All right, but thank you, Commissioner Moore and Commissioner Bernard. So,
Mr. Chair, if I could, I just want to encourage us in wisdom that if we are indeed concerned about litigation, that we be mindful of the words that we use. There have been some accusations of collusion without any evidence being presented, and I think it's important that we keep the integrity of this board, even by its own commissioners. So again, I just want to encourage us to be very mindful of the words that we use.
this board has
Without
been
evidence
colluding.
showing it.
Has been colluding for a long time, and
Well, then, if you believe that, then
Oh.
there should be some action on your part that shows it. Because you also are a part of this board, and if you believe that we're colluding, then there should be some action to that.
Announcements, please.
I just want to say thank you to the chairman for his leadership, really for the structure, Jim, Mr. Chairman, that you have provided the board in terms of the committees. It was so necessary. You did an excellent job. The revisions to the bylaws that you initiated when you first became chairman were also significant. I think it moved us forward from an structural organizational standpoint in a manner that was necessary. And obviously, your attempts and the many memorandums that you've published regarding decorum, et cetera, have also been impressive and a mark of sound leadership. I don't always agree with you on everything that you say or do, lots of what, but that's not the point. The point is that you have moved the needle forward, and that's all that I think we can all appreciate that. Thank you for that.
No,
And for the fact that it's taken a lot of time. I mean, tons of time, hundreds of hours.
I thank you so much, Commissioner. You're very nice. And thank you so much for that. Announcements, please.
Mr. Chairman, the announcements are that the next meeting is Thursday, July 7th at 3 p.m. here at Detroit Public Safety Headquarters. The next community meeting is Thursday, July 14th, Thursday, July 14th at 6:30 p.m. In the 10th Precinct Service Area. The host site is the Detroit Union Carpenters and Millwrights Training Center. It's a new facility at 7515 Elmhurst, 7515 Elmhurst. For monthly community meeting announcements, please note that the committee meetings are held every second Wednesday of the month. The meetings in July will be the Budget Committee on Wednesday, July 13th at 2 p.m., followed by the Policy Committee at 3 o'clock, followed by the Personnel and Training Committee at 4 p.m., followed by the Citizen Complaints Committee at 4:30 p.m. Also, as a reminder, because the board is meeting today, Tuesday, there is no Thursday meeting this week.
Thank you, Ms. Boston. Thank you so much for your timely, that you're giving us today and doing double duties. I appreciate it so much. You may call your oral.
Oral communications and public comments. Mr. Chairman, there were 4 people last week in Zoom who did not get an opportunity to speak. I'm going to let those 4 speakers at your direction go first. They will be Bernice Smith, followed by Eric Blunt, followed by Tara Brown, and I apologize if I, Tara Brown? Okay. Thank you, I apologize if I mispronounced anyone's name. And please note,
You said
public
4.
comments are limited to 2 minutes.
You said 4. I got 3.
Mr. Bowman, Scotty Bowman, was on the line last week. He is not here today.
Oh, okay.
However, we did call and remind everyone that the meeting would be Tuesday this week.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
Ms. Smith, thank you for being with us
Good
today.
afternoon, and I'm going to be brief because time is of the essence. It's a shame that you can't come here and communicate with each other without all the discussion. I am very ashamed of you. I came here with a happy thought, so I will continue with my happy thought now. Last night was so tremendous. I'm just overwhelmed. The chief and his crew, they did a hell of a good job. It was wonderful. I was at the bottom of Woodward sitting there because I'm allowed to sit there. In the meantime, Hayes, you did a wonderful job. You came along with the chief in the car, and then you did a happy thing for me. You acknowledged my 90th birthday, and you had me to get out of my car and take pictures. And I thought that was really wonderful. Of over 7 officers, that was Fitzgerald and whatever. It was about 7 of us. I can't think of all of their names, but it was a wonderful event, and I'm just so happy that we acted human last night. I will tell you what happened to me Friday, because I was on my ship, and this young man came down the street with this gun strapped all the way across him. I was surprised, I was shocked, and I called him to my car, and I asked him, young man, why are you having this gun? Why are you down here in Greektown? He said, well, it's open, whatever you call it. And I said, but it's not necessary. You're here to have yourself a good enjoyment down here with the people. You want somebody to bump into you, and then you were gonna be initiated a fight, or you wanna shoot your gun. It's not necessary, and I wish you would think about it before you come out your house again carrying it. I don't care about that law that we have. It's not necessary. Then I got the boys, the young men that with the pants down. I had about 4 or 5 of them, so they were very intelligent, and they said, thank you, grandmama. They call me grandmama now. So in the meantime, I want this city to know we got a hell of a good police department. We got a good chief, and we got good personnel that go with it. And I was so proud of them last night for what they did, and the people respected them, and they went about their business when the police were directing them to go a certain way to go out.
Your time is up. Your time is up. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you so much, Holly, for being with us all these many times, and I hope you have a wonderful time being safe in your own way.
Thank you.
And happy wedding plans.
Minister Blunt is in the Zoom room. Minister Blunt.
Yes, can you hear me, board?
Yes, you can. Yes, we can.
Do I get my 2 minutes from last week and this week?
Yes?
No.
Yes, we should.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you. I'll start with this week and then backtrack to last week. This ethics board, which is another oversight board, does it right by ensuring that even their training system is not connected or linked to the city of Detroit. But the public needs to know if the ethics board has an attorney, and is it also the general counsel of the city of Detroit? I have long complained of this conflict of interest, which to me is very clear and open. Secondly, to the ethics board, is it ethical? Is it standard conduct? Or is it a conflict of interest for the same law department to represent the city and this independent oversight board called the Board of Police Commissioners? Next, is it ethical for a current commissioner on this board with the authority to discipline city employees to receive a gift from the city by way of the city approving the construction of a new building that will bear this commissioner's name while the commissioner is still a current commissioner? And yes, I'm speaking to you, Reverend Howell. It is heartbreaking to witness the new commissioners, especially the religious leaders, to fall in line with the corruption of this board. One can only imagine the system used to trick or convince you to go along with this scam the board pulls on the city of Detroit. One can only imagine the types of political favors and debts created to hang over your head and corner you into this look over there structural system designed to avoid focusing on the majority of the time and resources that are stated for this board, which is to address police misconduct.
Let him go on. Let him go.
It's the second 2 minutes.
Mr. Blunt, you may continue.
Yes, to straighten up your back will require you to accept being hated by this world. But recall, Jesus was the most hated religious person in all of the northern kingdom of Judah and the southern kingdom of Israel. Recall the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On the year he was assassinated, was given the title by the U.S. federal FBI as public enemy number 1. Now back to last week's comments. It was by divine order that the January 6th hearing coincided with the exact day and time as this board's meeting, because this January 6th hearing committee gets it right. They ask all the pertinent questions. They demand subpoenas. They record things, and they make it available to the public. Why has no one questioned all the systems and the procedures implemented by former Chief Craig? His long-standing and continued to this day support for Donald Trump that included all the 7 years he was chief of police here in Detroit. In particular, the surveillance systems of facial recognition, ShotSpotter, and recently revealed camera surveillance systems installed at the bus stops, and any other surveillance systems that the public and this Board of Police Commissioners may not be aware of. And I want to thank Assistant Chief Fitzgerald last week before, for he is the only DPD official to accurately and honestly answer the question that ShotSpotter does and can record voice conversations. This crime summit is again, BOPC commissioners are not crime fighters. This board was not designed to fight crime, but to address police misconduct.
Thank you, Mr. Blunt. Thank you very much. You know, Mr. Blunt, I've been on this board for 4 years and then another 5 years, and I've been listening to your constructive criticism, and obviously you have a right to do that. I've never seen any person that don't ever have nothing good to say about this board in the 4 years I've been here. Nothing. And also, Mr. Blunt, I'm building an $18 million building. The city gave the community $1.8 million. Maybe if, and the same thing that Mr. Gibbert would do, he gets money for building buildings. Why shouldn't I? Why couldn't the community get the building just like Mr. Other people that build buildings? And perhaps if you build a building, you'll get the same thing. But to criticize me over and over again about something I'm doing for the community and you're doing nothing but basically hating, I resent that. I resent it. And as a minister, that basically it's unfounded for a minister to have that kind of spirit day in and week out. I say it in all kindness, all respect. I think at 78 years old, 50 years as a pastor, I have a right to at least say to you, I feel like it is unwanted. This board is good for this committee. It's done great work down through the years. And I think for the most part, if you really feel like we can do better, perhaps you ought to run for a position and get on the board and be from this side rather than that side. But you do have a right. You do have a right, and I respect that right. But I'm just saying to you again, it's my last day. I just can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore because I feel like as a minister to minister, this is not the public. I met with you when I first came to be president of the board. I met with you and tried to basically feel you out and yet you feel me out. And yet we come to this end of this time together and we're still on opposite viewpoint. But nevertheless, I respect you, I respect your ministry, and I respect your words that you give every day. I just happen with respect disagree with you. Let's go to the next person.
Mr. Chairman, your next speaker is Tara Brown, and she'll be followed by Miss Joy, who will be followed by Victoria Shaw, Tom Stevens, former Commissioner William Davis, and the final speaker will be Yaya V. Kaiser.
Ms. Brown, thank you for being here this afternoon.
Hi, thank you all for having me. My name is Tara Brown. I am from District 5, and I'm a member of Detroit Eviction Defense. The reason I'm coming to you all yet again, the last time I made public comment, it was to address the fact that we still have a problem with police officers from Detroit illegally evicting tenants. Right now, we're working with a woman, Ms. Kaiser, who is on the line, who was facing an eviction. She was tricked with a housing scam. She ended up leasing a house that didn't belong to the person who leased it to her. The owner of the house actually took her to court under an all occupants kind of court case. They ended up going to court. Ms. Kaiser was given X amount of days to leave. Prior to her leaving, the Detroit police showed up at her house, arrested her in front of her 15-year-old son, and took her to jail for squatting. She is currently being charged with squatting. The only problem is she had authorization to be there for another, I think maybe 3 to 5 days before she was arrested. Once she was arrested, all of her belongings were thrown into the street. All her and her son's belongings were thrown into the street, and they lost their home. By the time she got out of jail a couple of days later, her home was boarded up, and she had no place to go. She's now living in a hotel in the city of Detroit. This continues to happen, and I am just a person with Detroit Eviction Defense, and I was actually able to go online, find in the Register of Actions in the public record for 36th District Court the actual court case and the dates, and it's showing that there was an agreement that Ms. Kaiser would leave. So I'm just trying to figure out how the Detroit police, with all their resources, were not able to look in the Register of Actions under the people that they were supposedly representing and find this Register of Actions showing that, yeah, you may want Ms. Kaiser out now, but she's not squatting because she still has a couple of days before. And I was on the roster for last week, so I'd like my other 2 minutes for this week. Yeah. Ms. Kaiser, like I said, was arrested. There's still a court case pending. And the officer, this is the second time that this has happened. The last time I was here, I was addressing Whitney Burney, who was thrown out of her house right before Christmas when the Detroit police swooped in on behalf of her landlord and threw her out. I get it. The Detroit Police's job is to protect and serve, but it's not to act as a bailiff for landlords who are not handling their business. If you can't afford to be a landlord, then maybe you shouldn't be a landlord. The other problem is, even with an eviction, the landlord has to be in compliance with the city of Detroit. I, again, was able to go online and see that this particular landlord doesn't appear to be in compliance with the city of Detroit. And yet an investigator charged this woman and was able to get a warrant issued without even looking at any of this particular information. And once again, it seems to be the same detective, Detective Listine Gilbert, I think her name is. And again, your name keeps coming up with all these squatting incidents. Again, I understand the Detroit Police has an obligation to protect and serve, but it doesn't have an obligation to be an enforcer for landlords who don't take the time to go file motions in court and do the right thing and evict them with the bailiff properly. The only time the Detroit Police should be showing up to an eviction is when the bailiff comes to sit you out and you're not in compliance with the bailiff.
Let me ask you this, Brown, because I mentioned, I think, in the middle of the street there in the middle
Yes.
of Woodward. Chief, I'm not sure that's something that that's not something that we can give to you based on where this is going.
Absolutely, I can certainly receive that and ensure that it gets to the right arm of the department to look into it.
But also, Ms. Brown, this is a good guy right here, okay? So I want to make sure you get with him. But also, I think this is a ministerial thing too. So let me help you.
Okay.
Okay? Between the two of us, we will have her a place to stay.
Yeah, she has a place to stay.
But she got to be, but according to what she said in the street, and that is that she basically got to be able to have something substantial.
Right.
Sustain her.
Absolutely.
And that's where the ministry comes in. So I'm just saying to you again, between the two of us, we will work this out. I'll give you my number. You can call me in the morning about 11 o'clock. After you get his number too. And between the two of us, we'll take care of this.
And thank you, Reverend Holly. And I just wanted to point out with the last 35 seconds, the reason that I'm bringing this up is because Whitney Burney, the woman that I addressed the first time I came for public comment, is now suing the city. You can go into the Register of Actions for Wayne County and she's suing the city. Ms. Kaiser, yeah, lawyers are reaching out, and she too will probably be suing the city. And I understand that the city's gonna be sued, but what the city should not be being sued for is evicting people illegally or otherwise. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, just quickly, I understand, I know that the city's going to be sued in both those cases, there's no question about it, but you've raised the possibility of improper behavior by a detective who you named, as well as by other officers, and I think the board can request that you look into that and report back to the board, with the chairman's permission.
Through the chair, we will take this information.
And would you report back to the board? This is important.
Through the
Thank
chair, absolutely, and if I may, if there's allegations of officer misconduct, certainly the the OCI arm can assist and look into this matter as well. So we jointly will look at these actions and address any impropriety by a member of this department.
Thank you.
No, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
for letting me interrupt.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
This time, the next person, please.
Ms. Joy, followed by Victoria Shaw, who will be followed by Tom Stevens, William Davis, and Yaya Vay Kaiser. Thank you.
Ms. Joy, how are you today?
I'm tremendously blessed, as usual, Commissioner Holly, Chair Holly, and welcome to the Honorable Board. As usual, I appreciate all of you and the great work that you've done down through the years. And Chair Holly, the thing that you just did to help this and assist this young lady is the same thing that Commissioner Brooks did for me. When I first started coming here to the Board of Police Commissioner meetings, I was homeless and I had nowhere to go. Commissioner Brooks saw to it with an entourage that day I had somewhere to stay, with everything that I needed to get started with, including food brought to the door. I didn't even have to go down and eat with everyone else. They knocked at the door and brought it to me. And so I was treated royally as a citizen. I'm still just a citizen. I don't hold a title. I don't work for DPD. I'm not forced to say anything good about anybody here. It is because I appreciate on my own the commissioners and the hard work that you all have done. Chair Holly, you mentioned about the food, and you also help there, as well as housing like you did for the young lady. I commend you very, very highly for that, as well as your diplomacy throughout your tenure as the chair for the DPD and the Board of Police Commissioners, and also the assistant to you, Commissioner Ferguson, and the work that you all do together, and collectively, the work that the commissioners do in the city, throughout the city, is wonderful. I am no longer homeless. I started here homeless. I am no longer homeless. I have a lot of things that I could contend with in my personal life. The police department come to help me in my aid, come to my home and help me. You all help me on the phone. Whatever I need or anybody in the city needs, the commissioners have reached out to help.
Thank you
And
so
I've
much.
watched it online. And it is just amazing how you all just stand up. Commissioner Holt is one as well.
Thank you so much. Your time is
Thank you.
up.
I do appreciate everyone.
No, we thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Honorable Board.
So good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. Victoria Shaw, District 7, Grand River Community Block Club. First of all, Chair Holly, your seat gets super, super hot. I hope that the board is planning something really nice for him to see him out of this seat because it's hot. Also, if the board could please post a recording for last week's meeting as soon as possible because those of us on Zoom have not been able to catch up with that. I have a couple things. I know that Chief White often has to leave. I hope that this feedback for both these items can make it over to him. So the first one is, through the chair, I appreciate Commissioner Moore for bringing up the question about 911. And when we call, whether it's for gunshots or drag racing, and we don't know the address or the intersection, we don't really know what to say because the operator is asking for that information and requires that information. And I know the chief kind of digressed a little bit on ShotSpotter, which is fine, but we still need to look at either the procedure for the operators or some guidance to the citizens, because I know for me, it's deterred me from calling in future instances because I'm not really sure where this is exactly. So that's something we need to look at. Also, I did not stay for the fireworks, but I did go down and check out Evolve. The setup looked really good. The signage was clear. I do want to give kudos and thank you to two officers, Officer Rizzo from Precinct 4 and Officer Willis from Precinct 7. They gave me a demo of the system, let me walk through. I saw the screen. I saw when the officer walked through, how it picks up the firearm and everything. So they were very nice, professional. And I look forward to further discussions on how the system will be used for smaller gatherings in the community when we request them. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, you want to just, Ms. Victoria, just the chief, deputy chief might say something to you.
Mr. Chair, thank you. To answer both of your questions, as it relates to 911, give what you have, because believe me, it is vital. If you say, hey, I live at 123, my training sergeant used to say 2224 Blaine. So let's say you live at 2224 Blaine, and you can call and say, I live at this address and I hear gunshots in the area. Okay. Or I hear racing cars in the area, because now we have an area to start or track from. And we know if we get another call, and it may be a little north, we now know that somewhere in between you were there. That gives us a place to look, a place to canvass, whether it be for that vehicle, whether it be for someone that may possibly have been injured through that gunfire that was certainly inappropriate. If it's not at a range, it shouldn't be happening. So that's certainly, every bit of information you give is certainly valuable. Okay. So please, by all means, continue to call. Please don't be discouraged, because it helps us keep the community safe.
Okay, that's great. Can I just, is it okay to respond to that? Or?
Sure you can.
Okay, so perhaps some guidance for the operators. So if someone says, well, I'm not sure exactly where it is, maybe the operator can come back and say, well, that's fine. Can you give your address or address nearby, and we know to search that area?
Absolutely.
Okay, Thank you.
I know the communications operator's boss, so that
Okay.
conversation will happen.
Okay.
And as far as the Evolve, Officer Rizzo and Willis are two new officers that are from the academy and are part of the chief's initiative to know this city a little more intimately before they go to their precinct, where they're out walking, community engagement, foot beats and walking, and being engaged. And although there are a few that wear the insignia, neighborhood police officer, it is the chief's belief that we are all neighborhood police officers. So those officers were assigned into the chief's detail. I will certainly acknowledge your appreciation of them being ambassadors of the agency and certainly of the technology that we use. That's invaluable. As far as your the use for Evolve, I will share my information with you, give you my email address. We will build out a system in concert with the mayor's Department of Neighborhoods office that you can call your district manager and request it. And then from that, DPD will deliver them to whatever event you may be having. Present only when called upon. So if you have a security plan or someone looking over that, they can watch the monitors, and if there is that box goes off, certainly you can bring it to our attention, and we will constitutionally address the matter. Someone may have the permit and lawfully be carrying or whatever that looks like, but we will certainly and constitutionally work in concert to make the technology available to you. And as far as that Chiefs program with Rizzo and Willis, I know their boss too.
Okay.
So as soon as we get done, I'm going to have a conversation after the communications and commend them and put that in their file to show that they are everything we've asked them to be wearing this badge.
Awesome, that's great. So as DPD is working with Department of Neighborhoods to build out the processes and procedures for using the Evolve in the community, is it possible to engage some of the community members to kind of give some input and some thoughts around some things that you might not already be considering?
If I can, lastly, absolutely, they belong to you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, the next speaker is Tom Stevens, followed by William Davis, and the last speaker will be Yaya Vi Kaiser.
Call you back.
Okay.
Mr. Stevens?
Wonderful, man. Wonderful.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I did have one question regarding noise ordinances in the city. I have witnessed over and over and over motorcycles downtown area, midtown area at all hours, and I'm talking about 1 to 2, 3 in the morning, playing music on their motorcycles. And I've seen police cars that have drove right by them and have not done anything about it. So I was curious what the noise ordinance is and whether or not it's actually being policed.
Sure.
Through the chair. So absolutely. If you go through downtown, you'll see signage. We have started an education campaign.
Right.
As it relates to educating this community. We believe we should educate before we enforce. And from that, we will have a conversation. Individuals that come to this area may not know that you can't have an audible sound or emit an audible sound that can be heard greater than distances of 50 feet. So we certainly do the best we can with that. The other things that we may deal with is that while they may have the music blaring, sometimes they see us before we see them. And while they may have driven past you, by the time they get to us, that music is turned down. So I say that to say that we're certainly not perfect, but we commit to fostering a peaceful environment, holding those accountable when we need to, again, constitutionally. But we will continue to work at it. And as you mentioned downtown, that is an area that we have worked with, and we have seen some gains in the last few weeks. And those repeat offenders, we have transitioned to issuing ordinances as we see the education has not changed the behavior as we anticipated it would. So we will continue to work at it, hold us accountable, come back maybe in a month if you would. We'd love to have an update, and hopefully it'll be a favorable one that you see the progress of your police department.
Thank you so much.
William Davis?
Good afternoon. Can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, I would like to start off by saying that myself, my son, and my grandson, we went to the fireworks yesterday, and we enjoyed it thoroughly. Also, I'd like to say that there's a tale of two public bodies, the Detroit City Council and the Board of Police Commissioners meeting last week. Both had issues with Zoom, but the Detroit City Council, they adjourned their meeting, would not take no votes or do not do anything until they was able to resume with Zoom. You know, so the public had an opportunity to see action and see votes as it was going on. That did not happen with the Detroit Board of Police Commission. I mean, I was on Zoom last week, as I am every week. And, you know, I feel that y'all regularly like to disregard the Open Meetings Act. And you should also take note the fact that, you know, the Open Meeting Act was expanded just last month in May. You know, this board should be more aware of what they're doing and how they're doing it and how it looks to the public. The board should be an example of doing what's right. And, you know, I have a number of issues with Detroit City Council, but at least they're acting a little bit better. You know, you say that you have a corporation counsel there, representative, they should be pointing some of this stuff out to you more forcefully. You know, so I thought I would brighten up your day on my birthday. So y'all have a great day.
Happy birthday.
Birthday, former commissioner.
Happy birthday.
This is
Ja Kaiser, and I please excuse any mispronunciation.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Jai Kaiser. Yaya is actually a title because I am an ordained minister through the World Church. But Tara Brown did speak on my behalf. I did see Reverend Holly downtown as a protest to homelessness, but I did become homeless because Detective Lestine Gilbert chose to put a warrant out on me. She did threaten me with warrants in a situation that really had nothing to do with her. I was moved into a home. I was scammed out of it. That was fine. I was taken to court by a company that didn't even have the right to take me to court. I was aggressively arrested in front of my 15-year-old child as he was walking home from school. And I actually had 20 more days to be in that home and to gather my things properly and to move. I did not come to Detroit to cause trouble. I came to Detroit as a musical artist, as a worldwide known healer, as a community activist and healer of any community that I'm in, a nurturer of my community. I make jewelry. I'm a spiritual advisor. I'm a certified life coach. I'm just a lover of my people. And I came here with the energy of, I guess, what Motown had, and realized that, sadly, that's not what I was moving into. Overnight, I lost everything. Overnight, my child lost everything. Every tool that I built, every course that I built to help the community, not only here in Detroit, but everywhere around the world, was taken from me overnight. And she's been allowed to be a bully behind this badge for a long time. So I'm bringing this issue because, yes, I am homeless, sleeping in a hotel paid by the city, but that doesn't last forever. My life has been flipped upside down. And I don't think she thought I was going to appear in a meeting like this to open my mouth, but I'm a fighter, and I'm not going to stop fighting until something till I get some resolution as to this woman and her badge and how she abuses it. That's what I have to say.
Mr. Chairman, that was your last speaker. Because it was raised with respect to last week's meeting and the lost Zoom connection, I want to share with the board and with the listening audience that the city is working to edit the film to include the closed captioning and to post that video as soon as possible. Media Services captured the meeting in its entirety, so whatever the Zoom audience missed, they'll be able to see the full meeting once it's posted to the website. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Brown, based on the complaint that she was saying, what he's asking, the police chief is asking, deputy chief, you need to make sure if she wants to do that, that's where she starts, okay? Okay? Thank you. No, thank you. I thank all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Commissioner,
you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
you
Reverend.
have something you want to say nice to the
Yeah.
deputy chief?
Deputy Chief, that was real nice, wonderful how you came to the young lady's rescue, bringing her into a place of comfort and security and peace. I thought that was wonderful. How you stepped up, Deputy Chief.
Through the chair, thank you, Commissioner.
Through the chair.
Now tell him what you would tell if he was, the chief was there. What would the chief tell him back? What did the chief say back? That's what we're supposed to do?
That's exactly, that's training, I understand that I'm just a tool, a vessel to help bring the resources of the police department to those that are in need.
Somebody saying he's a preacher over here.
I know he does good fishing. Chair will recognize a motion to adjourn.
Just one more thing, Mr.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, I just want to say, Chief, you should note that there were 3 complaints about that officer on the record here tonight. So it is worthy of your attention. That was all, Mr. Chairman.
Chair will recognize the motion.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you so much, brothers and sisters.
Congratulations, Chair Holly.
Congratulations.
You can't do a second term.
Survived.
Charter won't allow it.
Linda, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you for the time and attention.